What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImacSports.
Instagram is also at ImacSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 267. The Dodgers are up 2-1 in the World Series after a wild one last night. The NFL had about one or two good games this week. Defense was optional for that league, so they finally have something in common with the NBA. And we won't get as much into the NBA yet, only one weekend. But these are the headlines we got, Kyle.
Yeah, a pretty exciting week. Pretty exciting day. We had the sports equinox yesterday, which is a very rare occurrence. Only one that we'll get the entire year. So baseball made sure that they did their part in that and gave us a 6-hour and 45-minute game, which I guess I'll just go into it. That's going to be my opener. That's probably the coolest thing I saw. Was it the most fun thing I saw? I don't know, because a lot of times I wanted that game to end so I could go to sleep. Ended up ending right before midnight. Freddie Freeman, of course, his walk-off home run, his second walk-off home run in the World Series in as many years. Just an all-time game that I'm sure that we'll talk about quite a bit once we get to, player, pitcher, rookie in the week.
Oh, 100%. This was definitely the most important thing anybody saw this year, maybe the whole calendar year. But I wanted to leave that one to you because I had a really weird Sunday. Sunday morning, unfortunately, starts off with everybody finding out one of my favorite players of all time has passed away at 41, Nick Mangold. And we knew he was in trouble with the kidney disease. He talked with the Jets fans about it. But I think everybody else thought, too, he had more time. And turns out he didn't. So the Jets really needed this one in Cincinnati. They ran the crap out of the ball, over 200 yards with Breece Hall and Isaiah Davis. Those guys helped a bunch. Even Justin Fields looked pretty good this week. And, it really felt like Mangold was the 12th man out there this week, like just pushing the pile, helping AG bring some of that old Jets mentality back into the building. And I know the Bengals defense is god-awful, but the Jets really needed this one, man. No more 0-17 talk. Hopefully the owner isn't going to be saying stupid shit anymore. And we could just finish the season with some more games like this. So rest in peace to Nick Mangold. Hopefully he gets into the Hall of Fame someday. Centers are weird. So even though he only played 11 years, it's still possible he's, dominant for 10 of them. So that's all I got to say. Great week for the Jets. They just had to pull that one out for him.
Yeah. Good to see no winless teams in the NFL.
Yes.
Say it's good for the league. We'll get right into our defensive player, rookie of the week, staying on the topic of the NFL. Starting off with our player of the week, Skyler, who do you choose here?
It was another week with a bunch of running backs going off, but I still have to go with Jordan Love in this one. 20 straight completions. That ties Brett Favre's record. And he just dominated Pittsburgh on primetime. 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked perfect. Just keep running it through Tucker, Kraft, and it looks like good things will happen for the Packers offense.
Yeah, I decided to go with James Cook for my player of the week. 19 carries, 216 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns with the long of 64 in there. He didn't even play the fourth quarter. I don't even think he played the last 4 minutes of the third quarter. So James Cook probably could have gotten to 300 yards if it was that type of game they wanted him to. But, really a big question for the Bills coming out of this bye. Everybody kind of expected them to beat the Panthers, but it was a good, feel-good win for them. And I'm sure we'll talk more about the Bills specifically once we get to our power rankings here in a few minutes. Defensive player of the week.
Shout out to Anthony Nelson. Crazy pick 6 for Tampa Bay. That whole defense went off. But my pick's got to be Myles Garrett. 5 sacks on Will Campbell, and he probably would have had a shot at the record if he didn't get pulled in the fourth quarter. He's really upset about that one, slamming his helmet down. So he could have done it. That's why he's my defensive player of the week.
Yeah, Myles Garrett, pretty easily defensive player of the week. Not often do you see somebody have this good of a defensive performance when your team loses by nearly 20 points, but I guess that's just the Browns thing. Myles Garrett does what he does, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, for, really do we say generational talent? I don't know. I feel like Myles Garrett could be a generational athlete as far as his build and his whatnot abilities. But regardless, a phenomenal week for Myles Garrett, and even in a big loss for the Browns.
Most feared, that's for sure.
Yeah. How about rookie of the week?
I'm going to go back to back with Rondé Gadsden here. Big win over Minnesota. The Chargers stay alive, and he is a major focal point, excuse me, of this offense. Once again, 5 for 77, another touchdown. I played him in one league, sat him in another. Turns out this guy is just like a giant slot receiver and a big help for Justin Herbert because they have no offensive linemen right now.
My rookie of the week is going to be Woody Marks. He had a really good day for the Texans in their big win over the Niners. 15 touches, over 110 all-purpose yards for the rookie running back out of USC. It's been up and down for him this year. You know how that good game against the Titans, everybody expected him to go off against the Ravens. In a game that there was no Lamar, he gets like 7 touches in the entire game. Rough game last week against the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night. But he pulls through and has a good game against the Niners, and probably one of the main reasons, besides C.J. Stroud, that the Texans did win that football game, and it was a big game for them as they, get back into the win column after a rough loss against the Seahawks. That takes us, though, to the power rankings, and maybe we'll talk about the Texans on here. Who knows? Yeah. We'll start off the teams that didn't make the list, or just off. Did you have anybody that you wanted to talk about that was not in the top 16?
Yeah, Washington's going to get knocked out of my list this week, and I don't think they're doing the wrong thing at all. I think if you have a special player like Jaden Daniels, you don't want to rush him back. And even though there is a possibility of making the wild card still this season, I think the right thing is to keep sitting him until he's 100%.
Yeah, 3 teams that were on my list last time when we did this 3 weeks ago that are not on it here. The Pittsburgh Steelers were at 15. They fall off because their defense is just awful. Not something I thought I'd ever say about a Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The Washington Commanders were at 9 for me last time. They do fall off as well, too. Daniels has been hurt for a bit too long now at this point, and based off of how they're treating it, you can kind of assume that they're not going to be super, super serious about this season. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were at number 7 last time. They fall completely off the list here. Just a terrible showing against the Rams in London before the bye week. Dealt with some injuries in that game as well, too. They now play the Raiders this week. I expect them to get back on track this week. But regardless, not a good look for the Jags in comparison to what they were 3 weeks ago. So they fall off the list. Let's get right into it, though. Number 16, who do you have here?
Yeah, I kept Jacksonville on. I am going to drop them 8 spots, but they still make it for me here. Still alive, despite, like you said, looking pretty mediocre for the last 2 weeks. Luckily for them, they have a chance to sweep a division rival that I have right above them and get right back in there into the wild card race. If they keep taking the ball away on defense, they could still end up having a pretty good season. So I'm going to keep them at 16.
Number 16 for me is actually a team that was in number 16 last time we did this, the Dallas Cowboys. They're at 3-4-1. Rough loss against the Broncos. Before that, big win against the Commanders. Before that, rough loss against the Panthers. Before that, big win against the Jets. Tie versus the Packers. Just a weird season for the Dallas Cowboys. They have a couple of games now versus the Cardinals and Raiders that you expect them to win before going into a Eagles, Chiefs, Lions 3-game stretch, which is going to be rough. But their offense is good enough to be, that fringe, fun playoff team to watch. But I don't expect them to do anything in the grand scheme of things. Number 15.
At 15, I got those Houston Texans you mentioned, the only team for me jumping into the top 16 from the last time we did it. And their slow start may end up hurting their playoff chances when we get there. But you can't deny this is one of the most dominant defenses in the NFL. Maybe the emergence of Woody Marks will help out C.J. Stroud, but those guys have got to score some more points if they don't want to waste a legendary defensive season.
Number 15 for me, unranked team, 2-5. I did put the Baltimore Ravens in here. They're getting Lamar Jackson back. Their defense is starting to get healthy. Big win to save the season, really, from Tyler Huntley and the rest of the guys over this past weekend against the Bears. And now they go into a stretch where it's the Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals for the next 7 games. Realistically, they could win all 7 of those, and nobody would really be shocked. Next thing you know, you're 9-5, and you're right back in the heat of the playoff race. Will they do that? I don't know, but I have a bit of trust in them to do that. So because Lamar's gone on those crazy runs before, so that's why they're in the number 15 spot, even with being a 2-5 team, and their quarterback's still not 100% healthy. Number 14.
At 14, I got the San Francisco 49ers. They're dropping down from 11. They lost to Houston, but I still kept them above, considering it wasn't a great Mac Jones game, their backup quarterback. And the defense may be on the brink of a total collapse here without Fred Warner, but Robert Salo's gotten the job done. CMC is running that entire offense. They're okay for now. Those early wins against their rivals helped a lot. And being at 5-3, I got to keep them in the top half of the league here.
Number 14 as well for me is also going to be the Niners. They do move down 6 spots, so considerable drop for both of us. Rough loss against the Texans this past weekend. Now it's 2 out of 3 losses for them after their 4-1 start. Giants, Rams, Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, Titans over the next 6 games. So a lot of winnable games in there. But if you do drop a game to the Rams and the Cardinals, I think it could be a little bit tough with how competitive the NFC has been this season. So, Niners battling some injuries, but still hanging on at that number 14 spot. Number 13.
At 13, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to keep them at 13 because they are who they are this season. They are exactly who I thought they were. Rodgers has been fine, but these guys can't stop a nosebleed. And, that part of the equation we're not really used to with Pittsburgh. But Joe Flacco punked them a couple weeks ago, and then they played Green Bay on Sunday night and just look like they're on a completely different tier away from the top teams. But I am going to keep them in the same spot because I don't know. I kind of expected them to get blasted by Green Bay, to be honest. I did pick them on the picks. I guess nobody else did, but they're still alive. I guess I'm just a little more confident in them than Baltimore so far, because Baltimore has internal issues too right now. And, we'll see in 2 weeks if Baltimore has won all those games in a row. It'll be an interesting conversation.
Number 13 for me is where I thought the Houston Texans. Unranked coming into this after their 0-3 start off the season. Since then, 3-1. Fun test this weekend up against the Broncos. I think that'll be a good game. Good litmus test for both of those squads. Big win this past week against the Niners after a bounce back loss against the Seahawks. Division's a lot better than what we expected, so that kind of puts them behind the 8 ball. After that Broncos game, Jags and Titans. After that, Titans should be a win, but maybe the Jags game could be tough for them as well too. But they're not out of it. And how C.J. Stroud played on Sunday was probably the best game that we've seen him play in long time. Probably his best game since his rookie year, to be honest with you, or maybe that playoff game last year. But regardless, they're in it. Number 13 team is the Texans. Number 12.
I got the Chargers at 12. I'm going to move them up 4 spots. I had them 16th last time, and they're finally starting to get a little healthier. And they've won enough in the beginning of the year to stay alive here. Gadsden, who we've mentioned, has been pretty fun. Herbert has taken over the Joe Burrow role this season, throwing about 60 times a game. So I would say they are definitely in place for an AFC wildcard. So I'm going to move them up.
Chargers are also my number 12 team. They actually moved down a spot to get here. Good win on Thursday night against the Vikings and their injury-riddled offense. Before that game against the Colts, everybody's losing to the Colts, and the Dolphins game before that was close as well too. His next stretch of games, Titans, Steelers, Jags, Raiders, should probably be a 3-4 stretch in there, and be in a good spot because they went 3-0 in the division. And if you go 4-0, including that Raiders game, you're probably gonna, put yourself in a good spot come early to late January. Number 11.
At 11, I have the Seattle Seahawks. I got to drop them down a little bit from 7, even though they're 5-2. Sam Darnold's been great. The defense has been awesome, and they have a pretty favorable schedule coming up too. They just don't have those head-to-head tiebreakers against Tampa and the Rams, so they miss out on the top 10, but I think they passed the eye test. They played Jacksonville and Houston pretty tough.
Yeah, Seattle It's going to be my number 11 as well, too. They move up 2 spots for me, back-to-back wins against the Jags and the Texans before going into their bye week. Like you said, the defense looks good. Sam Darnold looks pretty solid. JSN looks like the best receiver in the NFL. The run game, well, it's not very fantasy favorable. It's a solid run game when it comes down to it when you split it up between Walker and Charbonnet. They're a good team. Probably better than the Niners at this exact moment, and that's why I have them ahead at number 11. Number 10.
At number 10, it's the Tampa Bay Bucks, one of the biggest droppers for me, -8. However, I do think they're going to be all right. You know, they've been able to maneuver around a ton of injuries too, and Baker just couldn't do it all by himself anymore. You know, specifically the Lions loss. That one was tough to watch. He just looks so tired, just running for his life out there with the backup O lineman. And they got Pats, Bills, Rams coming up. So, you know, talk about a litmus test. Those are some of the best teams in the league right now. I still have them in the top 10 for now, though.
Number 10 for me is where I put the Denver Broncos. Up 4 spots from the last rankings. I would have put them up higher, although the Surtain loss for 4 to 6 weeks is definitely going to be tough, and they're going to feel that. But it is 5 straight wins. You know, there was the Bengals, the Jets, the Giants in there, and a couple of those are a bit closer to what they should have been. But they did beat the Eagles in Philly. Dominant win against the Cowboys at home. Texans this week, it should be a fun game, like I mentioned, on the other side of that before going into a Thursday night matchup with the Raiders at home. So you probably should win at least one of those two before going into a big, huge matchup against Kansas City on the 16th of next month. Number 9.
At number 9, I got the Buffalo Bills dropping down from the 4 spot. They finally do get off of that losing streak, and they destroyed Carolina on Sunday. And I think beating Kansas City this week would do numbers for their reputation, because I think it's fair to say their reputation is up in the air after the Atlanta loss. So I'm going to drop them down from 4. I'm a little skeptical because I know that these guys could turn it around at any second and score 50 points on us, but we don't play them for a while. So 9 spot. Hopefully the karma doesn't come back and bite me here.
9 spots for me, an unranked team from last time. It's where I slot the Patriots. Winners of 5 in a row. And, you know, you think 6-2, same thing kind of with the Broncos, although completely different reasons. I'm just not sold on them yet. I mean, I saw this team lose to the Raiders in week 1, and I know that was week 1. I know every team gets that, you know, oh shit week. It just didn't work out, and you have a bad game, and you lose to a team you shouldn't. But I don't know, with seeing the Raiders beat them, it just feels different. I know their schedule's been easy as well too. The Panthers game, like, they're doing what they should against the Panthers, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, but I'm not moved by those wins. Regardless, Drake May's been dominant. I just want to see how their defense fares against a better team. And I know they beat the Bills in Buffalo. That's definitely, their marquee win of the season. But I'm looking forward to these, games against the Buccaneers, games against the Bills later in the season, the Ravens as well too. But besides that, they don't really have like I don't know. There's not like an Eagles on there or Kansas City on there that would really be like, okay, are the Patriots really the Patriots again, or is it just that first half team that kind of surprises everybody and then fizzles out? I don't know. But Drake May's been pretty much the MVP at this point of the year. I feel like that's something that's worthy to point out. But I'm not sold on him quite yet as a whole. Number 8.
At 8's where I got the Patriots. I'm moving them up from 15 plus 7 because that's 5 wins in a row now. Pretty good stuff from New England. And, I agree. I still think they're a year away here, but I did pick them to make the playoffs. Mike Vrabel and Drake May have definitely got some good stuff going on. But I agree. I got to see him play Buffalo again. Josh Allen has got to be so angry about that game that they could do horrible, horrible things to that defense. We just don't know yet. We got to wait until we get there. But I am going to stick them right next to Buffalo until we do get there.
Number 8 for me is where I slot the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They do move down 4 spots. Bounce back win for them after their rough loss on Monday night against the Lions. Before that, wins against the Niners and Seahawks, which are big wins. and even better wins now, as I think time has developed as well too, as we see those teams uh, throughout the season going on. But I moved him down 4 just because of the Mike Evans injury and him being out likely for the rest of the season really limits this offense. Chris Godwin, what we've heard and seen from him, he's not going to be 100% the rest of the season with his injury from last year. It's just not going to be that quick for him. Mecca Luke is great, but he is a rookie at the end of the day. And Bucky Irving, who knows? What his schedule is, his timeline. Is he going to be back in 2 weeks? Is he going to be back this year at all? We don't really know what's going on with him. There's a lot of unclarity there, or uncertainty, and unclarity. That's not a word. But anyways, regardless, they're good. Like, I'll say that, but they're not Super Bowl contenders to me anymore. Number 7.
Number 7, I got the Detroit Lions. I'm going to drop them down 4 spots from 3 because they lost in Kansas City. But then they really manhandled Tampa Bay on the ground the next week. And the Lions are going to continue to be a fun team, a playoff team, but similar to the Patriots, I think I have to see them beat another real team before I'm calling them a Super Bowl favorite.
Number 7 for me is where I slot the Green Bay Packers. Ever since that tie against the Cowboys, they've looked good. Wins against the Bengals, Cardinals, and Steelers. Maybe some of those games a bit closer than what you expected, but regardless, they're winning them. This team has the talent on both sides of the ball that you can be confident in them as well too. They got the good run game with Josh Jacobs too, so I like them. Looking forward to the Eagles game in a couple weeks on, I think, Monday Night Football. It should be a fun matchup there. For that, the Panthers, and they probably should blow them out this weekend. But they do move down 2 spots because there's been some other teams, I think, that have deserved the jump up above them. Number 6.
I'm going Denver over Detroit, Kyle, +4 for the Broncos, 6-2. And maybe I was onto something with my preseason picks. 11, 12 wins still on the table here, even though Bo Nix has been extremely hard to watch. They've been getting the job done. He's got 18 touchdowns. They play in Houston this weekend, so another really good one, defensive battle. They're looking for 6 in a row.
Number 6 for me is where I slot the Los Angeles Rams. They move up 4 spots, 5-2 now, back-to-back wins before the bye week. Now they play the Saints. Tyler Shuck, whatever his name is. Shouldn't matter. Like, it's going to be a blowout regardless. Niners and Seahawks after that should be fun games, good divisional games, must-win kind of games for them if they want to win the division. But I got faith in the Rams. Puka should be back for both those games. The run game is good. Stafford's been solid. The receivers, Puka, Devontae Adams, what a duo there. Probably the best wide receiver duo in the league right now. And the defense has gotten better as the season's gone on in my eyes. So the Rams move up 4 spots to the number 6 spot. Number 5.
At 5 is where I got the Rams. I'm going to move them up 1 spot. I had them at 6. They've been taking care of business ever since that crazy Thursday night game against Mac Jones. That defense and Devontae Adams have stepped up big time when Puka went down, and they crushed Baltimore. They crushed Jacksonville. I have no reason to move them down.
Number 5 is where I slot the Buffalo Bills. They moved down 3 spots after losses to the Patriots and Falcons. But after the bye week, they bounced back. Big win against the Panthers that we already kind of talked about with James Cook. Fun matchup this weekend. Bills-Chiefs is always, pay-per-view type of stuff. If they win that game, the Bills are back. Everybody's like, okay, whatever we saw in those 2 weeks from the Patriots and the Falcons are gone now at this point. If they lose that game, I don't know if I'm quite concerned. Kind of depends how the game flow goes. But I feel like the Bills are back. They had a great game against the Panthers, and usually a win like that is what we've seen in the past few years. When they go through these rough stretches, is the game that gets them back on what they need to do and be dialed in for the next 10, 11 weeks of the season. Number 4.
At number 4, I got my biggest riser, the Kansas City Chiefs, +10. And it really felt like Detroit, Vegas, Washington, whoever they were playing, had really no chance of slowing down Patrick Mahomes. It was fun while it lasted, but Kansas City's probably going to be up here for the rest of the season. The positive is we know that they're beatable now, and there's a chance Denver takes that home field advantage away from them. Even the Chargers currently have a tiebreaker, so that's our hope right there. Get them on the road in the playoffs.
Number 4 for me is where I slot the Detroit Lions. They actually moved down 3 spots because before the game against the Chiefs, I had them in the number 1 spot. Since then, lose the Chiefs on Sunday night, win against the Buccaneers on Monday night, and then just had the bye. They come out of it now playing the Vikings and Commanders before Sunday Night Football in Philly, which is going to be a fun one. I got faith in the Lions. I know they're dealing with some injuries and even some suspensions with Brian Branch and whatnot. But I like Detroit, man. They got the run game to back it up. I think this is the making of a really good regular season team that probably won't win the Super Bowl. I think that's what it is with the Lions at this point. Number 3.
At number 3, I got Green Bay. I'm moving them up from the 9 spot, 5-1-1. And I also was very worried about their defense after watching them tie to Dallas and giving up 40, but they look great on primetime. Tucker Kraft is that guy they probably should have been going to in the first place because they don't trust their receivers. Monday night next month against Philly, I think you mentioned that one. That could be an NFC Championship preview game. And if they shut down Saquon there's a legit chance for the number 1 spot again.
Number 3, not moving at all, actually, is where I put the Philadelphia Eagles. A somewhat slow start to the season, I think, is reasonable to say, yet they're 6-2. First in the NFC East, going into the bye week. Saquon looks back. Jalen Hurts, it looks like he's as good as throwing the football as he's ever been in his career. And Tank Bigsby is a valuable backup running back if Saquon were to ever go down. I don't know. Maybe that's just the offensive line having their best game of the season against the Giants this past weekend. But the Eagles looked really good. The defense looks solid. Jalen Carter, when he's not spitting on people or having these minor injuries, he's dominant as ever. I think Philly's just fine. They look like the best team in the NFC to me right now. After the bye week, at Packers on Monday night, and then Sunday night versus the Lions before at Cowboys, game of the week, probably 125 Fox game. So 3 fun games coming up for the Eagles. Would not be shocked if they win all 3 of those. Number 2.
Yeah, number 2, I got Philly. I agree. This is the best NFC team, but I am going to drop them down from the 1 spot. A couple ugly losses earlier this year, but they don't seem to be bothered by losing that one to the Giants or missing A.J. Brown. So I'm going to let Philly hold their own destiny because that schedule begins to get very difficult. You mentioned the games. They should all be close games, maybe even Chicago, too. We'll see. Some of those NFC games should be nasty this year. Nasty defensive battles is what I like.
Number 2, moving up 10 spots, your biggest risers. Also my biggest riser, the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, they're back. 3 straight wins. Lions, Raiders, Commanders. None of them were really even close from the get-go. Like we talked about on the Bills side, fun matchup this weekend against the Bills in Buffalo. Usually a game, if it's the regular season, that the Bills win. But if it's in the playoffs, the Chiefs win. Regardless, it does kind of still feel pressing to win all these games if you're the Chiefs. Usually we get to this point in the season for Kansas City, and it's like, okay, they're going to cruise to the division because the Broncos aren't grabbing it, the Chargers aren't grabbing it, and we know for sure the Raiders aren't grabbing it. But this year it feels like the Broncos and Chargers have kind of grabbed us by the balls and said, you know what, if the Chiefs fuck up, they're going to seize the opportunity to win the AFC West and put Kansas City into that 5 spot, that 6 spot, that 7 spot, whatever it is, and make them play all 4 games in the playoffs, make them play on the road throughout, and make it really tough on them to get back to the Super Bowl for however many years in a row it's been at this point. But if there's one guy that is going to be able to say fuck them and go 14-3 and win the rest of the season, it's Patrick Mahomes, who has Rashee Rice, not James Worthy. That's not who he has. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, all these different dudes, Travis Kelce, and a phenomenal defense. Like, he's he's in his flow state right now. I know he threw 2 picks yesterday. The one Lattimore made in the corner of the not end zone, but like the 2-3 yard line. That was a great play by him. The pick that fell off of Kelsey's hands, scratched up. Who cares? Like, that's not even a pick on him.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes is in flow state, and when he's in that spot where he's just so comfortable, they don't even need a run game. Like, it's game over for anybody who's playing them. So I look forward to it this weekend, and we'll see how it goes between the Chiefs and the Bills. Number one, and I think we're aligned here, which is not something I expected.
Yeah, Indianapolis, man. I had him at the 5 spot when we did this 3 weeks ago. But now it feels serious. It feels like we're deep enough in the season we can say that that offensive line and Jonathan Taylor combination is just completely unstoppable. Even when Daniel Jones has an average game, they're completely fine. They crushed the Chargers a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't so sure these guys were legit, but after a couple of these games, I think they are. Interesting games coming up against Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and KC. Kansas City, of course, is dominant. We have them both in the top 5 now again. But Pittsburgh and Atlanta love to play spoiler. That'll be interesting. Not necessarily as big of a litmus test, of course, but if they can keep that going, then I feel great about putting them at the 1 spot.
Indianapolis, number 1 of 5 spots. I don't know how long it will last because the Steelers are falling out. But if you look at the AFC top 4 right now, the Colts, Patriots, Broncos, Steelers, I don't know if I'd call it nostalgic, but it feels like we're back in 2009 and we're watching games on the old CBS scorebug. And
where's Mark Sanchez?
Like, oh God, in jail is where he's at. Like Big Ben, Tim Tebow, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, all those dudes playing quarterback. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning on the Broncos, whatever it is. Like, it feels like we're back in that stage right now when you look at the top of the AFC. But it's completely different for the Colts on how they're getting there. It's the run game. Jonathan Taylor's, in my eyes, has been the MVP through 8 weeks of the season. Maybe that's just because I have him in fantasy. Who knows? But 4 straight wins after that loss to the Rams in a game that they probably should have won. Had some definitely questionable mistakes there from A.D. Mitchell, but that's long gone. They play the Steelers this week. I expect them to put up 45. They play the Falcons next week. Falcons have had bum games against the Panthers, bum games against the Dolphins. I fully expect the Colts to go 9-1 going into that game at Kansas City on the 23rd of November. Going to be a phenomenal matchup there to see if the Colts are really, really Super Bowl contenders. I think everybody at this point, especially at 7-1, you're like, okay, this is a playoff team. But can you take down the Chiefs? Can you take down the other top teams in the AFC? Until they lose, they're going to be number 1 for me. But if they win that game against Kansas City in 3 weeks, we're sitting here saying, is Daniel Jones going to be a guy that wins the Super Bowl ring? Because at this point, it looks kind of viable, which I did not expect going into the season.
It feels like Luck versus Alex Smith when we do get to that week, except the roles are reversed.
Yeah, that's true. Although I'm trying to think, where does Jonathan Taylor fit in there? Jamal Charles? I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyways, moving on to the MLB player, pitcher, and rookie of the week here. Player of the week, Skyler, who'd you choose?
We got to give an honorable mention to Freddie for finally ending that game last night in the 18th. But this is all Shohei Ohtani, man. He's 2-dotting in the World Series right now. 3 homers, 6 walks. He reaches base 9 times last night, tying the all-time record. And, he starts on the mound in a couple of minutes here. So just an absolute freak. And I know in our group chat, some people weren't all on board with what you were saying with Shohei, but they got to be messing around with you because this has never happened before. Yeah.
Shohei's player of the week. You don't even need to go into his stats, but just say he got on base 9 times in a game yesterday. That's what happened. He got walked the last 5 times he was at the plate in that game, and he's a starting pitcher for the Dodgers. I don't care what Alex says at this point. He is truly once in a lifetime type player. And I feel it's going to be hard for, all these things to come together where this guy is such a great hitter, such a great pitcher, plays on such a good team, and performs in the biggest moments. I know he didn't have a great World Series last year. throw that out the window. Like they won the World Series, and now he's having one of the greatest postseasons that we've ever seen ever. It feels like from both sides of the ball. The Shohei Ohtani, once in a lifetime, has got to be the player of the week, pitcher
Yeah.
of the week.
I thought this one would easily be Yamamoto getting the back-to-back complete games, but Will Klein makes this one very interesting. I think if it's not cheating, I would have co-winners. But if I had to only pick one, I mean, man, Will Klein was the only guy available last night to come in when he did. And he throws 5 shutout innings out of the pen in what might have been the most important game of the season. I mean, he never looked anything like this with the A's or the Royals.
I'll save the Will Klein dialogue for a second.
Okay.
Because I'm putting Yoshinobu Yamamoto here. Complete game in the shutout. First pitcher to have back-to-back complete games in the playoffs since Kurt Schilling did it in '01, I believe. So it's been a long time since that happened. And he was warming up in the bullpen the game after, which I think would have been so ridiculous to see him go in the 19th inning. I know there was reports saying if the position player were to come in, it would be Miguel Rojas, which would have been weird if that –
When they brought out the translator, I thought they were getting Heisman Kim. I thought there was 0% chance to be Yamamoto.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a crazy situation with Yamamoto going to the pen. I really wanted to see him pitch in that game. That's why I was pulling it to go to the 19th inning, just to see what would happen. But he was so dominant in game two. Not just complete games in the playoffs, but complete games on the road in the playoffs as well, too. I think mean a lot. This guy shut up all the haters that said, who would you give, 300, how could you give $325 million to a guy who's never pitched in the MLB? You do it because he's doing that. And that's pretty ridiculous. But the rookie of the week, maybe renamed to the Will Klein Award, because what the fuck happened last night?
Yeah, Will Klein makes this a lot easier for us because he's still eligible. But I mean, I've kind of said what I needed to say about him. Trey Savage had a great game one outing. They won that one for Toronto, obviously, but Will Klein, holy cow, dude! I mean, the world is falling apart. You have no pitchers left. You got this guy who had a 21 ERA last year, is the only guy left, and he is just on one in this game. He's absolutely on one. He's feeling all the energy of the ballpark and just taking that back with every pitch that he throws, and it was epic. It was epic. Even though I hate the Dodgers, that was an epic finish to the game for sure.
Yeah, we were joking last week for the rookie of the week. Like, is this just going to be Trey Savage, like penciled in regardless? And he Savage, I mean, he wasn't terrible. 4 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks. But I did not expect us to have 8 different rookie pitchers pitch in this World Series so far. Roki Sasaki, Jack Dreyer, Mason Fluharty, Justin Robleski, Edgardo Henriquez, he was
good, yeah,
great as well too. Braden Fisher, he shall not be he who shall not be named. Braden Fisher, Trey Savage, and then Will Klein, who also pitched in Game 1 and had a great inning there. When the A's traded for this guy last year, I didn't think that we'd get rid of him so quickly, but you could see the stuff from him that was just like, okay, if this guy ever figured out how to throw a pitch for a strike, he could be pretty good. And the A's gave up on him, went to the Mariners at the beginning of the year. They gave up on him. The Dodgers took a chance on him, pitching AAA, pitching the big leagues, and they found something with him last night. That was one of the most ridiculous outings that we will ever see, and just like the complete. All right, back into my Will Klein monologue because our meeting shut off. I won't go as passionately into the Will Klein monologue, but just the utter unpredictability of the sport is really cool to see, and Will Klein doing what he did on the biggest stage was really cool to see for him. I really wish Fox interviewed him instead of Shohei at the end of the game. I know Shohei was definitely worthy of an interview, but at least talk to Will Klein. This is a guy who's never going to have this moment again in his career. Go talk to him. Go feel a bit of his emotion and all this stuff. And then we just didn't get that on the broadcast, which sucked.
And
So
Shohei was just like, "Yeah, I just want to go to bed, guys."
yeah, like Shohei, we know what we're getting in an interview at this point. Like he's done so many crazy things. That's nothing against him, but we know it's going to be I'm focused on the win. I pitch tomorrow. I want to go to sleep, whatever it is. But Will Klein, who knows what he would have said on that. Regardless, he's a rookie of the week. Just phenomenal for him.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, we have a fun segment here that we like to do in pretty much every sport, every couple of years, predicting the next World Series winners. We did it for the NFL, I want to say like 5 years ago, not at this point. So maybe that's coming up once we get to Super Bowl week this year. But we're going to be predicting the next 5 World Series winners from 2026 to 2030. We'll start off with the closest one, not this one, but the 2026 one. So next year, who is it and who's winning?
I didn't do a whole lot of research into numbers or projections. I kind of went based off of, who's got a bunch of assets, who needs to win right now, and, who's got a pretty good future coming up. So for this one, I took the Dodgers again. I have Dodgers over the Yankees. I feel like the Yankees want to get them back in a rematch, even though they will probably have to spend a ton of money to make that happen to win the American League again. And the Dodgers, I think this is the best team we've seen in our lifetime. So why wouldn't they try to go 3 in a row?
So you're saying that they're going to win the World Series this year?
Go to 3 in a row. And yes.
Oh, okay.
And yes, also.
Our World Series is also the Yankees versus the Dodgers. I was tempted to put the Mariners in here instead of the Yankees, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of regression. Naylor and Suarez are, at least one of them's likely gone. I don't think Cal Raleigh's going to hit 60 fucking homers next year. And the pitching, it wasn't perfect for them, but I do think it'll be tough to find what they did the past couple of years and be that healthy down the stretch outside of really just Brian Wu. The rest of those guys are pretty dominant for them. I do think some of those guys are approaching rather closely to maybe even be in trade talks to go get another outfielder or whatever it may be. So I don't think the Mariners are going to the World Series. So I have the Yankees in there, and I have the Dodgers winning in 5 games because they're the Dodgers.
Yep.
2027.
All right. Well, in 2027, guess who's winning the National League again? I have the Dodgers for the 4th time, but this time somebody does get them. I think the brightest future in the American League right now is Boston still. We've talked about them a ton, and they've been able to get some really bad contracts off the books and replace them with some superstar prospects and some great pitching. And they're going to keep doing that. I'll give them a year off and then, back into the World Series conversation for 2027.
Yeah, my 2027 NL League winner is the Dodgers as well too. In the AL, I do have the Red Sox here as well. I think the pitching staff's built for the long term when it comes down to Crochet, Bayo, and Peyton Tolley. That's really as good as the top 3 that you'll see. In the AL, I think the lineup is good and young, and even if they trade Jarren Duran, like they're going to find a way to put somebody effective there or get a shit ton back for them that makes them a really good team. The bullpen is the part that's kind of lacking, but that's the thing that you can kind of change year by year and not really develop at all. And find your way into a good one. I do think the AL is super wide open, and there really wasn't a team that stood out to me. In contrast to the Dodgers, like the Dodgers just kind of feel like they're locked in at this time, and they know what to do once they get to October now. But I do have the Dodgers winning this series in 7 games and going 4 straight World Series titles, which would be nuts.
That'd be something.
2028.
And 2028, this is the first World Series matchup I have without the Dodgers. I just think that in baseball it is so difficult, and maybe it will take a Shohei injury for them to finally not make it to the World Series. And I'm not predicting any injuries on anybody, but this year I do have the Mets winning the World Series over Seattle. I agree with you. Seattle's going to have some regression, but they also have a ton of trade pieces. So I think there's a situation where they're able to revamp the team and get back there with Julio and with Cal and with that pitching staff. They just got to make sure that there's league average players all around too. I have them losing to the Mets. I think if there is a team to beat the Dodgers, that probably means they're the most dominant team. of that season. The Mets have a ton of money. They're going to keep spending. They have Soto there for the long haul. And we know how Soto is in these type of situations. I think he's going to get one again.
2028 NL pennant is the Dodgers. Even at this point, I think you're looking at maybe some legitimate regression from Mookie, from Freddie Freeman. But even if those guys struggle, like the Dodgers are going to find a Kyle Tucker or a Tariq Skubal to join the rotation as well too. And you're just going to be like, okay, like when does it stop with this team? Honestly, I don't know when it stops. But who they're playing, the AL is so tough to figure out. There's not really one team that stands out to you in the long term. So I'm looking at teams that have young, good players, maybe willing to spend at this time as well too. But the A's. At this point, you're really realistically looking at a 25-year-old Nick Kurtz who just had a phenomenal season. You're looking at Jacob Wilson, who had just started the All-Star game at shortstop, first rookie to ever do so. You're looking at an outfield that probably has Tyler Soderstrom, a version of Denzel Clark, maybe even another top pick in there as well too. You're looking at Leo Dallas DeFries. You're looking at possibly Shea Langoliers being locked up long term. Brent Rooker's still going to be there at that point. Lawrence Butler as well too. Pitching staff is definitely messy. It's definitely messy. But this should be the first year in Vegas. If John Fisher's doing stuff the way that he says, this is the time to spend. This is the time that you make a World Series contender. It would legitimately be the best chance that the A's have in a long time. But it's still the Dodgers. The Dodgers win in 6 games. They win their 5th straight World Series. I just don't, maybe it's one of those things that, like, while you're in it, it's tough to see an end. Maybe it does end next year. Maybe somebody gets hurt and it's all over. But even if Shohei gets hurt, even if he can't pitch, like, they won the World Series last year with him not being able to pitch. And their team got a lot better this past year and should be a lot better for a while. 2029.
In 2029, once again, I am not picking the Dodgers to win the National League. I think just when you look back at history, it's kind of like 4-year stretches. And then maybe you have to take a year off and trade some guys and then do it again in 2 years. So I picked the Braves to win the National League in 2029. I think that this is a great organization that knows how to do it right. They pay their guys early. And I believe that they can find some more guys to replace the Azunas or the Albies or the Acuñas of the world, because I like their pitching staff too. And this isn't anti-Dodgers. I'm just trying to, I don't know, just experiment a little bit because of what I did in the American League. I agree with you. It's so hard to predict this league compared to the National League right now. So I went with the Yankees winning their first one in the Aaron Judge era. I think that if there's any team that's going to be pissed off at what the Dodgers and the Mets have done, the Yankees are right up there. They're going to keep spending. Hopefully, and again, I don't say this as a Yankees fan. I just like for this situation to hit, you would imagine some of their bad contracts and bad decisions in the bullpen over the years are finally over with when we get to 2029 and it's Aaron Judge with a new group of guys. Maybe the Martian has finally figured it out. Maybe Volpe is playing at an all-star level or even higher than that. So I did go with the Yankees to finally get one, first since 2009.
2029 for me, NL League winner is not the Dodgers. There's a whole bunch of different teams here. I went with the Padres. I think they have the most motive to beat the Dodgers. Fernando Tatis will still be there. Jackson Merrill, not Jake Merrill. Xander Bogaerts will actually still be there. And so will Yu Darvish, which I do think is funny. But I also think the Padres are going to be more and more willing to spend if they see the Dodgers have won 5 straight World Series, that they just do something ridiculous and give somebody a ridiculously large sum of money to come play for them. And I think they're the team that probably affects the Dodgers the most when it comes to narrative as well too. I think they're the team that can kind of get under their skin, and I don't even know how, but I just feel like it will happen at some point. And so I do have the Padres get into the World Series here. And the team that they face will be the Boston Red Sox. They get back after a year of absence in 2028. I do think this team has the ability long term. They've signed guys long term as well too, so it kind of tells you that there's going to be that influx of talent there for a long time. Usually, the Red Sox, outside of phenomenal generational type players like Mookie Betts, like they will pay their guys. It's something that we've noticed, and bring guys in as well too. So I think the Red Sox have the ability to spend money. When you culminate all that together, I think it turns into a World Series title in 2029, winning in 7 games against the Padres. And then our last one, 2030.
Yeah, I also heavily contemplated San Diego for, I mean, pretty much every year, man. Talk about a team with a lot of assets. Those guys are always wheeling and dealing. But I kind of figured that being in the same division as the Dodgers, there's a way lower chance that a team like the Braves could randomly have a 100-win season and get the 1 seed and just go on a crazy run like they've done in the past. But I do have the Dodgers back in 2030. Like I mentioned, I think there's maybe a 2-year gap period, which, like you said, right now it's hard to see that. They've been so flippin' good over the past couple of years. But they're going to play the A's in the 2030 World Series. I agree with you. When you look at this lineup, it's not going anywhere. Most of these guys are paid, and it's so dominant. You just got to make sure you get some pitching. I just think that the first couple of years in a new ballpark, I mean, we've seen this with Sacramento. That team was a disaster last year, even though they put up runs. It's kind of more of an emotional thing than a statistics thing. I do have the Dodgers winning. We have some bad luck against the Dodgers in the postseason, but I'll 100% be rooting once we get to 2028. Why not, dude? The American League looks wide open right now, but we got to spend a little bit of money. I think Dodgers A's would be fantastic, and I'd be 30 years old that year.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about. I have the Dodgers in 2030, making the World Series. It's the easy pick. It's the scratch pick. I thought of like putting in the Cubs in here or something like that, or I wanted to put the Marlins in here as well too. I think
Sure.
Peter Bendix could pull a crazy Tampa Bay Rays type story and get into a World Series from a under seller type team like that. But it's the Dodgers that I put in here. Shohei will still be here. Roki will probably still be there. Yamamoto is still going to be there. Murakami will be there. Like all these guys that we haven't even heard of yet will be there as well too. At 2030, who they're playing, I put the A's back in there. It's maybe it's just me being an optimist, but when you realistically look at the futures of the teams in the AL, I mean, I'll just go through them. Toronto's old. The Yankees are the Yankees, so maybe they bounce back. The Red Sox have already had them in here. The Rays are so year to year, you're not sure. The Orioles seem like a failed rebuild. The Guardians seem like they're good, but never quite good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Tigers, same thing. Royals, I contemplated it. The Twins have no direction. The White Sox, I think, will be better, but never really too much with what they have right now. The Mariners, close. The Astros, old. The Rangers, close, I think, but also old. And then the Angels are the Angels. If the A's get the number 1 pick this year, and Rock Tulowitzki is on the 8, like you're looking at a very legitimate, like 5 to 6 All-Star starting lineup.
We can have the best lineup in the American League.
Yeah, like they can even do that next year, to be honest with you. Not win the World Series, but they could have the best lineup in the American League next year. The pitching, I have a lot of faith in guys like Luis Morales, Jack Perkins, Gage Jump, Jamie Arnold, and hopefully, if at that point, if you made a World Series 2 years prior, you're willing to spend even more money and realize the capability that you have. If you're looking hopefully like 200 mil payroll at least at that point. Realistically, with inflation and stuff like that, probably in that range. And I have the A's winning in 7 because why not? Why not be an optimist and have us get our first one in
89.
What would be 41 years at that point, which would be a long, long time, but well worth the wait.
That was exciting.
On to the second half. Only 5 more years for us to get our title, I guess. But we got some college football stuff that's happening a whole lot sooner than 5 years from now.
Yeah, I know, right? Not as soon as the Portland Pilots or whatever other teams we get, but yeah, on to college football. Week 10, it doesn't have as many double rank matchups as the past few weeks, but we all know that sometimes those are the craziest weeks in college football when you don't expect it. So the first game of the day might be the craziest, even though not a lot of people yet know about this game because neither are ranked. 7-0 Navy goes to 7-1 North Texas. The winner is potentially in first place in the American, definitely ranked in the top 25. And that North Texas quarterback, dude, Drew Metzenmaker, he's putting up ridiculous numbers. He's a redshirt freshman, and he's going to make a fortune in the transfer portal next year. So I'm really excited because Navy's a team. Everybody roots for Navy. That's That's one of America's teams, right? Navy and Army. It's great when those guys are playing good. And North Texas has put in some money into their program recently. At the same time, number 9 Vandy goes to number 20 Texas. Texas just had a crazy comeback win against Mississippi State, kind of saves their season. But now Arch Manning is in the concussion protocol, and that leaves a bit of uncertainty against such a big riser like Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia might get an invite to New York if they win this one and go to the playoff. Texas still a 3-point favorite though. The noon slot is pretty much just upset watch, so I won't go too in depth there. Let's go to 4:30. 18 Oklahoma is at 14 Tennessee. Another crazy SEC shootout. Joey Aguilar takes on Johnny Mateer. I'm leaning Vols along with Vegas because John Mateer is clearly still hurt. He just had surgery on his hand. Tennessee has scored 40 on Georgia this year, and the Sooners were just weak last week against Ole Miss. So I'm leaning Tennessee. At the same time, we got an old school rivalry turned conference foe. 23 USC goes to 6-2 Nebraska. Both sides are trying to save their season with the lack of Penn State in the way in the Big Ten now. There's one more spot up for grabs right now. And we got 2 great coaches. We got 2 NFL hopeful quarterbacks, Mayava, Rayola. I think USC gets off the schneid here. They had a tough Notre Dame loss. They are a touchdown favorite in Lincoln, Nebraska this week. And lastly, a great Big 12 after dark matchup. 17 Cincy at 24 Utah. Cincinnati's been a great story. They're 7-1, but can they stop Utah's run game? Utah's an 8.5-point favorite at home, but we all know how these Pac-12 after dark type of game goes. It goes down to the wire, and a ton of points are put up on the board. So those are the games you should watch.
Awesome.
All right. I do have a Heisman watch, though, Kyle. We haven't done this in forever because there's like 16 different quarterbacks with the same numbers, but I think it's been long enough. We know who's impacting what right now. So it's time to put together an updated top 5. Honorable mentions, some non-quarterbacks. Jeremiah Love is killing it at Notre Dame. Even Price, the backup. Like those guys are both going to be drafted extremely high. And David Bailey, former Stanford edge rusher, he's got 10.5 sacks at Texas Tech. Unfortunately, they gave him a bunch of money, and you don't want to hear about that side of college football when you're a fan of a smaller school. But he's definitely a guy to watch out for. So let's get right into it, man. Number 5, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt, 20 total touchdowns. He's leading Vandy in rushing. He throws the ball a ton too. I think he has to be in the conversation because, dude, we're talking about Vanderbilt, man, not the Longhorns. Vandy, and Pavia has these guys in the top 10 for the first time in like 80 years. So I think that alone gets him in the conversation here. He's going to have to keep putting up numbers, though. You can't just put up 180 yards. You got to do something special if you want to win the Heisman. Number 4, Haynes King, Georgia Tech quarterback, the heart and the soul of the 8-0 Yellow Jackets. Another guy who's leading the team in passing and rushing, but he's got 12 rushing touchdowns. He's going to have numbers similar to Tebow if he keeps this going. And if he makes the playoff, another guy, absolutely, you got to give him the invite. If Georgia Tech's like 12-1 ACC champs, 100%, dude. Number 3, a new guy to the list for me, but everybody knows him. It's Julian Sayin, Ohio State quarterback. I wanted to see a little more before adding him here, but dude, he's completing 80% of his passes this year. He's leading the number 1 Buckeyes. Looks like a slam dunk first-round pick for 2027. Just excellent stuff from Ohio State. There's a reason they haven't lost yet, even though they got a tough schedule. Number 2, Marcel Reed, Texas A&M, quietly having an excellent season. They got Texas A&M number 3 in the nation right now. 23 total touchdowns. Great game against LSU. Basically got Brian Kelly fired because they beat their ass so bad.
That's good.
200 passing, 100 rushing. excellent season. I'm glad I kept him on the list because, this is usually a team who chokes by now, and they didn't. Thanks to Marcel Reed. Doing great. The number one.
If
Yeah, sorry.
the if this game didn't happen yesterday, I think my opener probably would have been Brian Kelly getting fired. That was pretty cool to see.
It was pretty cool. And I know it's off topic and we won't talk about it yet, but this coaching carousel is going to be madness. It's going to be sick, like college football 26.
It's like transfer portal.
Mm-hmm. Except for coaches and billions of dollars on the line. The number one, it's a familiar face here. Fernando Mendoza, the Cuban Missile. I would stick with him if the season ended today. They beat Oregon, and he's just continued to dominate the Big Ten, which looks like the best conference this season. 24 touchdowns, just 3 picks, 4th in the nation in QBR, and that includes guys who play in the air raid system, not the Big Ten. That's very pro style, like they're doing. So I just think it's phenomenal. We'll see. Number one pick is a whole nother story. It's like a completely different game these days from the college game. But I think Fernando Mendoza's got enough to be, at the very least, a game manager because he's got a rocket arm and a very smart dude. And Indiana's awesome to watch. So I would give him the Heisman if the season ended today.
Where is Winnedad?
Trinidad Chambliss? Sure. He's definitely an honorable mention. I just think since he missed a couple of games, he's going to have to beat Alabama or something to get there.
That's right. Yeah. I saw him on Pat McAfee's show. I don't know if you saw that, but
I haven't.
McAfee picked Georgia over Ole Miss or whatever it was. I forget which game it was. And I don't know if they have Link, if not every week or whatever. But he was talking about how you don't want to pick us or whatever. You don't believe in our quarterback. He's like, say it to our face. And Trinidad pulls up from the background. And he's like, hey, what's up, Pat? It's pretty funny.
That's great.
But Winnedad's a thing over there in Ole Miss, and they've been playing good ball, so they're fun to watch. Lane Kiffin's always really good for college football.
Yeah, I like him.
Labs bowl predictions last week, though. 1-3, better than the week prior, going 0-4. Layups, though, did not hit. I had Detroit Pistons -4.5 versus Chicago on opening night. Bulls won that game. Skylar had number 6 Alabama -11.5 versus South Carolina. They did win that game, but not 11.5, a lot closer than what we expected. This week, I have the Niners -2.5 versus the Giants. I think the books are trying to trick us here, but maybe I'm falling for it. Who knows? With how our picks have been, Scadabo's out. The Niners defense is still good. I do think Jackson Dart can struggle against that Niners defense, and Brock Purdy should probably be back. So Niners -2.5.
That Alabama game, I thought that had 38-9 written all over it. But shout out to Lenore Sellers. I know he fumbled at the end of the game, but he's a tough dude for sure. I'm going back to the NFL for the layups. Similar to you here, same line. Chicago -2.5 though at Cincinnati. Cincinnati just gave up 39 points to the Jets. So I think this is another one. I'm not going to overthink it. I know Chicago has their issues, but they can score points. And Cincinnati can't stop anybody. So I want to see a Caleb Williams bounce back game here against the Bengals.
Well, predictions last week were better. I had the Toronto Raptors +180 on opening night against the Atlanta Hawks. That did hit. They won by 25 in that game, so that was cool to see. Skyler had the Bears +230 against the Ravens. I ended up taking the Bears +270. Right as the Lamar Jackson's was actually on practice squad, or not practice squad, was actually on whatever scout team on Friday or whatever. And I went to the flip immediately, put in my bet, Chicago +270. Ended up going to +115, just at game time. So it was really good odds. Just the Bears suck. Is what we found out on Sunday. And so that goes red. This week, I took Buffalo +110. I always like when you have these really good teams at home in these big matchups and they're favorite or not favorite of their dogs. We saw it earlier this year with Kansas City against the Ravens. I think we find a similar situation here with Buffalo. I'm always going to take the home team that's plus money, that's really damn good whenever we get the chance.
Yeah, I think I would also pick Buffalo when we do our picks. That's probably where I'm leaning. They tend to win the regular season matchups at least against Kansas City. So I went with a very similar strategy here with my bold prediction. I'm taking Vanderbilt on the road over Texas. Same odds again, plus 110, because there's a legitimate chance that Arch Manning doesn't play in this one. And if that happens, then there's no way they're scoring on Vanderbilt.
That's going to do it, though, for episode 267.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that. For one
Next
day.
week, episode 268. Getting closer to first legitimate college football playoff poll.
Yeah.
We're going to know the World Series champion, I think, at that point, which will be cool. So maybe we'll do some free agent predictions in the MLB. That'll be fun if we get to do that. There'll be more stuff. MVP check-in for the NFL, most likely. Yeah, any closing remarks?
Hey, the NBA season's been awesome so far. I know some of our picks have been way off, but that's the beauty, man. When everybody's like either 1-3 or 3-1, we'll give it a couple weeks and maybe we'll, do some sort of contender list with them too.
Yeah, some check in there. Awesome.
Well, all right. We'll see you next week, Kyle. Great one. It's always fun when we don't talk about any of the games before and we just hop right in.
Raw dogging it.
Oh, yeah. All right. 268 will be next week. We'll talk about, both of these teams, right? We will, someone's going to get an end of the season grade and it won't be an A+ probably.
I think Blue Jays are an A+ regardless at this point. So we'll see.
All right. Just want to be dramatic, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Peace.